This is the Troll Patrol, live with Justin FREAKIN.
Welcome to the Troll Patrol, live. We are 6 days until Election Day. You go play your stupid game. Get the fuck out of here. Nobody cares about you, sir. But you should show up later tonight when I'm going to be on with producer Dave on Echoplex Media for the Intellectual Dollar Tree. That will be at, God, I keep getting the time wrong. 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time, 7 o'clock Pacific. There's the link with all the info you need. Join us later on tonight. It's going to be a blast. We're going to be talking about Jordan Peterson. But here on this show, Trump was in Nebraska last night. First of all, I was a little shocked that he was in Nebraska because you would think that it's a very safe state. However, I found out today that Nebraska is one of the states that awards their electors proportionally. So if you get 60% of the vote, you get 60% of the electors. So that's why Trump is in Nebraska, because every vote counts for him. That is how razor thin the margin is. And once again, I'm going to reiterate, I do not believe that he is acting like a man who thinks he's getting ready to win an election next week. So this was him last night, Omaha, Nebraska. Now, if you've seen the news today, I think you know what we're going to talk about after we play this video. But here he is, supposedly a blistering video he played against Joe Biden at his Omaha, Nebraska rally.
Biden's agenda includes a radical vision to destroy suburbs across our nation. How are your suburbs doing? Don't ask. Are they good? They won't be good for long if they get it. And to completely dismantle...
What's wrong with the suburbs?
Triple police departments nationwide. You know what's going on. You see it better than anybody.
There was a suburban commando rolled through about, what, 25, 30 years ago?
To destroy suburbs and police. Just take a look. Roll the tape. We do this for you on this freezing cold night.
Remember he said freezing cold night.
The suburbs today are not the suburbs of half a century ago. The suburbs are far more diverse than the cities.
Oh, we're not even going to get to see the video? I figured they'd pan up to the screen. This is going to be fun watching Trump watch it.
Centralized government control by the left.
Democrats want to abolish the suburbs. They are too clean and nice, and therefore, by definition, they are racist.
I haven't seen that in the Democratic platform.
Plans on how to do this. It's called Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing. It's a HUD regulation. It was written during the Obama administration. Biden's advisors plan to enforce it. Towns will be ordered to abolish zoning for single-family housing because single-family homes, needless to say, are racist. Low-income, federally subsidized apartments will go up in the suburbs.
We'll also build 1.5 million new energy-efficient homes and public housing units.
Sounds good to me. What are they bitching about?
Hey, it's Ted McGrath. When I first...
You shut up, Tim. We don't want to hear from you. Of course the Trump campaign has... Oh, it's The Hill. I thought we were watching this straight from the Trump campaign YouTube.
But now the left is backing an even more radical plan. It was a bill put forward by Senator Cory Booker to push low-income housing developments into the suburbs.
So that was some of the bullshit that they were laying on people in Nebraska before he left his supporters all out in the cold. Literally. So thousands of people left out in the cold, stranded in Omaha after the Trump rally. The shuttles weren't operating.
Those people.
Multiple people had to be treated for hypothermia. And that's on top of the fact that this is another super spreader event. He's having these super spreader rallies all over the country. So, like, he's having these rallies out at airport hangars. And apparently there was no parking anywhere close to this. So, the parking lots are 4 or 5 miles down the road in fucking barren-ass Nebraska, where there's barely fucking street lights. And these people were shuttled to the event. Trump takes off. Gone. These motherfuckers left out in the cold. That's what you get for going to the con man's rally. But even after that, they don't realize they've been conned. Because a news reporter spoke to one of them. Let's hear what she had to say.
Anytime I can't feel my body, but I don't really need my body. This is about Trump's body. I think this whole thing's been blown way out of proportion.
That's what she just said. She'll go out there and freeze to death for Trump.
Feel my body, but I don't really need my body. This is about Trump's body. I think this whole thing's been blown way out of proportion, you know? Like, yeah, they didn't let us drive our cars here, but it's because they said, you know, our cars are poor. And that doesn't look good on TV. You know, you're a TV person, you know that. I think
Whoa! Did she just say that they wouldn't let them drive their cars there because their cars look poor?
He did this to teach us a lesson. I really do. What was that lesson? Well, that's not really for me to know. And
he taught you a lesson. He absolutely taught you a lesson. You didn't learn it, ma'am.
That's actually pretty nasty of you to ask. Democrats want to have their bus rides and have their bus rides back too.
She's not pulling a bow rat on us. Like, that woman is sincere. I've met these people. I talk with these people every day. You cannot penetrate their bubble. I have no doubt that she is 100% sincere.
This isn't the Polar Express. Tom Hanks isn't in charge of this thing. He's in Greece being a pedophile. No.
See, she's a QAnon.
No. Listen, I would walk 750 miles in below zero temperatures, nip nude.
Nip nude.
Maybe that's not appropriate to say, but yes, I've seen some elderly people passed out and unresponsive. But to be honest, the only reason there's so many of those people is because the media.
Bro. Yeah, I've seen some elderly people passed out and unresponsive.
But yes, I've seen some elderly people passed out and unresponsive. But to be honest, the only reason there's so many of those people is because the media keeps counting them. And so if people...
Whoa. She just used the only reason there's so many cases is because we keep testing people. The only reason there's so many people is because the media is counting them. Jesus Christ. I can't even get through this without pausing it and just being shocked at the shit that's coming out of her mouth.
The only reason there's so many of those people is because the media keeps counting them. And so if people like you guys weren't counting the old people that were on the ground, there wouldn't be as many.
Maybe this was satire. I don't... Goddamn. Let's hope this was satire. Well, she loves Katie Lang. I'm not seeing. Is that her? Okay. Phew. Holy shit! Thank God this is satire. Thank God. I was worried there for a second. Now, apparently, though, this little doozy that came out a couple of years ago is not satire. This was the anonymous op-ed from the New York Times, published on September 5th, 2018. I work for the president, but like-minded colleagues and I have vowed to thwart parts of his agenda and his worst inclinations. She was on point. She fucking James Randi'd me. But it wasn't until the end when she was saying, like, if you people didn't count the old people laying on the ground, I would have believed it, because I hear these people say that shit all the time. So this was the anonymous op-ed. Oh, they've even... Okay, I went back and got the original, and they've added the addendum, because I was getting ready to reveal his identity in his blog post from Medium earlier today. So the New York Times has added his name to the article. So I guess we all read this when it came out. So let's read a statement from earlier today. His name was Miles Taylor. He came into the administration with John Kelly. He worked in the Department of Homeland Security. Saw Donald Trump prove he's a man without character. I mean, who didn't know that already? That was one of the things. I have a friend who's really big on Mad Dog Mattis, General Mattis. And I pointed out to him that Mattis, he knew what we all knew. We all knew he was a con man. And Mattis allowed him to use his good reputation in order to help get elected. So that should really make you lose respect for General Mattis, if you had any. He wanted the attention and the arguments to be on themselves, but I mean, he was a low-level staffer, so it probably gave it more credence that he didn't put his name on the op-ed originally, because people were speculating that it could be Mike Pence. Some people were analyzing some of the words they used. There was some obscure word that Pence had used in a speech at some point in time, and that it was also used in the op-ed. Of course, they weren't about money. He made clear he wasn't afraid to criticize the president. Well, shit. We're getting ready to watch video after video of why you might want to be a little hesitant to criticize the president. People like Poop Boy will threaten to put a bullet through your head because right-wingers are absolute fucking morons. But that was one of the breaking stories today, was that the op-ed writer came forward. He was a low-level staffer in the Department of Homeland Security. So he probably did a better job at getting his point across because he didn't put his name on it. So apparently Clarence Thomas's wife is quite the loudmouth on social media. And she's been using her Facebook page to amplify unsubstantiated claims of corruption by Joe Biden. Now, this is another thing. Last night, Tucker Carlson had Tony Bubbalewski, or whatever the fuck his name is, still saying absolutely nothing. I'm dying for a right-winger to explain to me exactly what they think is incriminating and what they are accusing Joe Biden of. Because I listened to the interview of Bubbalewski. There was nothing in it. A lot of unsubstantiated claims and a lot of him refusing to actually hand over the materials he says he has, or show the materials, or that phone call that they aired, where it was only like a little short snippet. Makes the dude look guilty, doesn't it? But this is another one of those issues like the transcript during the impeachment hearing. All the right-wingers were like, did you read the transcript? Never realizing that I was going to respond back to them with the transcript, with the part highlighted saying, yes, I read the transcript. Here is where the criminal act is. But that's what this story is about. It's subterfuge. It's to allow the QAnon motherfuckers to put whatever fucking crazy-ass conspiracy they can come up with and try to pin it on Biden. I've heard some dandies. Apparently, Hunter Biden was doing coke with Malia Obama, had her credit card and was cutting up lines, and they were sharing with Nancy Pelosi's son, who was abusing an Asian girl or some shit. It's insane. And they've laundered the notion that there was child porn on the laptop. All they had to do was put out that stupid-ass story about how the FBI agent that signed the warrant worked in the child porn division, and QAnon ran with that shit. I have heard such outlandish claims about the pictures that were found on that laptop. It's all absolute nonsense. But you have the wife of a Supreme Court justice. If I remember correctly, she works for the Federalist Society. Unmasked. That's another thing. We had another super spreader event at the White House when they swore in Amy Coney Barrett. Apparently all the attendees wore masks to the private ceremony. Jenny Thomas regularly shares conspiracy-minded memes. Last week, she reposted a video that features Trump personal lawyer Rudy Giuliani in the headline, "The Biden Crime Family, How They Made Millions." Now, this is crazy because Biden has released his taxes. We can take a look at where his money came from. Trump, we're having to pry it out of him, and everything we find out about him just shows how fucking corrupt he was. There's over $250 million was forgiven by Deutsche Bank, a bank that is known for laundering money. So come on. He has a secret Chinese bank account. Jenny Thomas wrote that Trump and his supporters call Obamagate an unsupported claim that former... What? She wrote about what Trump and his supporters call Obamagate, an unsupported claim that blah, 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 spying on the campaign. More citizens should know about the biggest scandal, and the evidence is now piling up. I still want to know the evidence. I swear to God, dealing with right-wingers is nothing but batting down their false claims and their misinformation. You can't have a debate with these people. And that's the reason why the satire piece that we watched just a few minutes ago got me, because fuck. It sounded just like something they would say. Now, I found this interesting. Trump's campaign website was hacked last night. Apparently, it was some kind of a Bitcoin scheme. Let's look at what it says. The world has had enough of the fake news spread daily by President Donald J. Trump. It's time to allow the world to know the truth. But this is, I wonder, was this another example? We did the story the other day of how his Twitter password was MAGA 2020 with an exclamation point. Was that also his web domain login as well? Is that how they saw the story about his Twitter? It's like, well, let's go check this one. And that's how they got into his campaign website. Its password was also MAGA 2020 with an exclamation point. And that, ladies and gentlemen, that's the person with the nuclear codes right now. You know the funniest thing about right-wingers? They say something like Obama's going to prison. I'm like, hey, sure, take him. But here's the thing, is I can name you the things I actually want him on trial for that are legitimate, not the bullshit that right-wingers make up.
My Democrat colleagues suggest that...
So this was earlier today. Instead of passing COVID relief, the Republican Senate was crying about how they're being discriminated against on social media, because that is a good use of their time.
Get to decide what political speech gets amplified or suppressed, and it assumes that you're the arbiters of truth, or at the very least, the publishers making editorial decisions.
That's a straw man argument. Nobody even, they're just a platform. They're an aggregate.
Are the Democrats correct that you all are the legitimate referees over our political speech? Mr. Zuckerberg, are you the ref?
Senator, I certainly think not, and I do not want us to have that role.
Mr. Dorsey, are you the ref?
Seriously, because fuck Twitter and fuck Facebook. But I mean, the attacks against them leveled by the Republicans aren't legitimate.
To protect users, but we really believe and support maximizing freedom of expression.
I'll take that as 3 no's, and I agree with that. You are not the referees of our political speech. That's why all 3 of you have to be more transparent and fair.
They are an aggregate of content.
In your content selection algorithms, because at the moment it is, as I said, largely a black box. There's real mistrust among the American people about whether you're being fair or transparent. And this extends to concerns.
Now remember, as we're listening to this, I'm going to show you the truth
post-election period if the results
about how social media treats right-wingers here in just a second.
Again, for my Democratic friends who keep using this really bad referee analogy, Google, Facebook, and Twitter are not the referees over our
Who is using this referee analogy? You're the one that I heard using that.
I referenced earlier includes provisions to give users due process and an explanation when content they post is removed. So this is, again, a yes or no question. Do you agree that users should be entitled to due process and an explanation when content they post has been taken down?
No. That is not a private company's responsibility.
Senator, I think that would be a good principle to have.
Thank you. Mr. Dorsey.
Absolutely. We believe in a fair and straightforward appeals process.
Great. Mr. Bashai?
Twitter sure as shit won't give me my account back.
Terrific. Thank you. Mr. Zuckerberg, Mr. Dorsey, your platforms knowingly suppressed or limited.
Now that's another thing as we're sitting here watching this. Twitter won't let me on their platform. Facebook keeps me in Facebook jail. But I'm going to take their side against the Republicans because the criticisms Republicans are lobbing at them have no merit whatsoever.
The visibility of this New York Post article about the content on Hunter Biden's abandoned laptop. Many in the country are justifiably concerned how often the suppression of major newspaper articles occurs online. And I would say...
Major newspaper,
would you
the New York Post. And as if they were censoring the New York Post.
Of newspaper articles that Facebook suppressed or limited the...
Now, Twitter shouldn't have pulled it down, but that's just because this was going to happen.
Why each article was suppressed or
and you don't want to give these idiots fodder.
Senator, I can certainly follow up with you and your team to discuss that. This was... We have an independent fact-checking program, as you're saying. We try not to be arbiters of what is true ourselves, but we have partnered with fact-checkers around the world to help assess that, to prevent misinformation and viral hoaxes from becoming widely distributed on our platform. And I believe that the information that they fact check and the content that they fact check is public. So I think that there's probably already a record of this that can be reviewed.
Yeah, but if you could do that as it applies to newspapers, that would be very helpful. And Mr. Dorsey, would you commit to doing the same on behalf of Twitter?
We would absolutely be open to it. And we are suggesting going a step further, which is aligned with what you're introducing in the PACT Act, which is...
I will give Dorsey props, though. That's a nice Rasputin beard you got going on there.
Much more transparency around our process, content moderation process, and also the results, the outcomes, and doing that on a regular basis. I do agree and think that builds more accountability and ultimately that lends itself to more trust.
So now, more from this hearing. We've got Senator Ron Johnson.
You have public reports that you have different chat forums in all of your...
Because we're going to keep getting back to the same thing here. All they care about is themselves and getting their bullshit out. It's all Ron Johnson, and then we're going to watch Marsha Blackburn here, just whining about how they're being mistreated by the big bad tech companies. Boo-hoo.
Companies and also public reports where, the few conservatives that might work for your companies have certainly been harassed on those types of forums. I don't expect you to have taken toll of your employees, but I just want to get a kind of a sense, because I think it's pretty obvious. But would you say that the political ideology of the employees in your company is, let's say 50-50, conservative versus liberal progressive, or do you think it's closer to 90% liberal, 10% conservative? We'll start with Mr. Dorsey.
Facebook fires employee who shared proof of right-wing favoritism.
We ask for focus on.
Just what do you think off the top of your head based on your chat rooms and kind of the people you talk to?
Not something I look for or look at.
Right. Okay, Mr. Pichai.
Senator, we have over 100,000 employees. For the past 2 years, we have hired greater than 50% of our workforce outside California. It does tend to be proportionate to the areas where we are in, but we have 1 million messages.
Facebook quietly stymied traffic to left-leaning news outlets.
And so on. And we have definitely made an effort to make sure people of all viewpoints are welcome.
So again, you want to, Mr. Zuckerberg, will you answer the question honestly? Is it 90-10 or is it 50-50? Which is it closer to?
Who gives a shit what the political affiliation is of their employees?
Number, but I would guess that our
smart people tend to be more liberal-minded.
Thank you for that honesty. Mr. Dorsey, you started...
So I would assume a lot of the people working for these tech companies
people don't trust
lean to the left.
I agree with that. We don't trust you. You all say you're fair in your.
I'm kind of doubting there's a lot of right-wing programmers out there because right-wingers are fucking morons.
I've seen so far in this hearing is when Senator Cruz asked, "Does Twitter have the ability to influence elections?" Again, does Twitter have the ability to influence elections? You said no. Did you stick with that answer that you don't even believe? And let's face it, you all believe that Russia has the ability to influence elections.
That's an interesting question. Does Twitter have the ability to influence the election? I would say no, that Twitter itself doesn't have the ability. It's the content on Twitter. But Twitter is also a gatekeeper in that. Now, overall, I would say Twitter leans in a corporatist manner, as most gigantic companies do.
Or interfere by using your social platforms. Mr. Dorsey, do you still deny that you don't have the ability to influence and interfere in our elections?
I miss Twitter. I wish I could be on Twitter. I like it so much better than Facebook.
Choice around other communication channels.
Well, he feels aggrieved by social media.
Does Twitter have the ability to influence the elections? And you said no. Do you still stand by that answer?
Twitter is a company.
I mean, it's like the article I shared out the other day. Right-wingers have a lower emotional intelligence.
Senator Lee, and I would call it censoring, what you do with the New York Post. You don't think that censorship, that moderation...
Brigade reporting is exactly what happened to me.
Elections by withholding what I believe is true information from the American public, you don't think that interferes in elections?
Not our current moderation policies. Our current moderation policies are to protect the conversation and the integrity of the conversation around the elections.
Okay, for both Mr. Zuckerberg and Dorsey, who censored the New York Post stories or throttled them back, do either one of you have any evidence that the New York Post story is part of Russian disinformation, or that those emails aren't authentic? Do any of you have any information whatsoever they're not authentic, or that they are Russian disinformation? Mr. Dorsey,
we don't.
You have no. So why would you censor it? Why did you prevent that from being disseminated on your platform? That is,
as producer Dave pointed out, it's too dumb to be Russian.
And particularly true ideas.
We believed it fell afoul of our hacking materials policy. We judged in a moment.
What evidence did you have that it was hacked? They weren't hacked.
We judged in a moment that it looked like it was hacked materials.
You were wrong.
Surfacing, and we updated our policy and our enforcement within 24 hours.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Zuckerman? Mr. Zuckerberg?
Senator, as I testified before, we relied heavily.
It wasn't hacked material, but we don't know where this material came from. It's not verified material.
Private briefings and alerts they gave us.
Did the FBI contact you and say the New York Post story was false?
Senator, not about that story specifically.
I don't think the FBI would contact them and tell them anything like that.
They alerted us to be on heightened alert around a risk of hack and leak operations around a released trove of information.
Exactly.
And Senator, to be clear on this, we didn't censor the content. We flagged it for fact checkers to review, and pending that review, we temporarily constrained its distribution to make sure that it didn't spread wildly while
it
was
did.
being reviewed.
But then that's the Streisand effect. Of course it's going to spread wildly for you doing that.
Interference, nor whether it's true. We rely on the FBI and intelligence and fact checkers to do that.
Mr. Dorsey, you talked about your policies toward misinformation, and that you will block misinformation if it's against civic integrity, election interference, or voter suppression. Let me give you a tweet that was put up on Twitter. It says, Senator Ron Johnson is my neighbor and strangled our dog, Buttons, right in front of my 4-year-old son and 3-year-old daughter.
What?
Please refuse to investigate. This is a complete lie, but important to retweet and note that there are more of my lies to come. Now, we contacted Twitter, and we asked them to take it down, and here's the response. Thanks for reaching out. We escalated this to our support team for their review, and they have determined that this is not a violation of our policies. So, Mr. Dorsey, how could a complete lie, it's admitted it's a lie, how does that not affect civic integrity, how could you view that not as being election interference? Let's face it, that could definitely impact my ability to get reelected.
So wait a minute, it sounded like it'd fall under satire. This guy is absolutely fucking insane. But hey, he's not as insane as the senator from Tennessee, Marsha Blackburn. Oh, God.
Is Blake Lemoyne, one of your engineers, still working with you?
Senator, I'm familiar with his name as an employee. I'm not sure whether he's currently an employee.
Okay. Well, he has had very unkind things to say about me. And
he's had unkind things to say about a public figure, a sitting U.S. senator. And these are the people that are constantly talking about censorship and cancel culture. The supposed free speech warriors. They're full of it.
I was just wondering if you all had still kept him working there.
All because he talked shit about her online. So that was all day in these Senate hearings. Whiny ass fucking Republicans talking about how they're being discriminated against. But as Politico reported, despite the cries of censorship, conservatives dominate social media. LifeSite News, Ben Shapiro, Dan Bongino. Producer Dave is correct. I'm going to be over on the Intellectual Dollar Tree here in just a little bit. Link is right there. Please come join us. I did the math a little bit ago. 10 Central. No. 10 Eastern, 9 Central, 7 Pacific. Despite cries of censorship, conservatives dominate social media. Especially when you hone in on things like abortion, Black Lives Matter, those topics are dominated by right-wing fucking morons. Users shared the most viral right-wing social media content more than 10 times as often as the most popular liberal posts. And there's a lot of bot accounts that are absolutely amplifying these messages. These aren't organic. People also shared conservatives' most read claims of rampant voter fraud roughly twice as often as they did liberals or traditional media outlets' discussion of the issue. Spinning mainstream media coverage on voting irregularities to elaborate conspiracy theories, taking anecdotal evidence and trying to extrapolate it out that's happening all over the country. You'll hear about dead people voting all the time. It's a fucking clerical error. So Politico worked with researchers at the Institute for Strategic Dialogue, and I actually took a look at the actual report. Very interesting. A small number of conservative users routinely outpace their liberal rivals and traditional media outlets. I can prove it to you. Let's go over here. Let's take one of my favorites here on the Facebook, Dinesh D'Souza. Let's see how many times this motherfucker posts. Three hours ago, 4 hours ago, 5 hours ago, 7 hours ago, 7 hours ago, 10 hours ago, 22 hours ago, Not as many as I thought. So we're talking about 10, 15 times in a day. I'm a little shocked by that. Let's go. Let's go with Ben Shapiro. And they're all amplifying the same message. 8 minutes ago. Now this is going to be a hell of a lot of posting. 17 minutes ago. 17 minutes ago. 46 minutes ago. 47 minutes ago. 1 hour ago. This motherfucker posted 10 times in the last hour. It's just a deluge of content. All amplifying the same message. And yet they use a lot of rhetorical tactics. They'll focus on the personal. Very emotive arguments as Democrats are baby killers. So they become easy to remember and create an outsized footprint online. Like the fucking Hunter Biden story. I can't create enough content to counter all the people amplifying that story. All right, so last night we watched some of the stream from Philadelphia. And do go back and watch the show. There was a guy in the front lines, right up in the cops' faces, just telling them off the whole time. Fucking love that dude. He's my hero. But now this is the line I think this is about where we were watching last night. Like we were watching a camera that was over here. These are some cars that were going down the street. They see the cops and they turn around. Watch what the cops do to this one up here. This is the cops. Remember, all those right-wing messages about rioters and Antifa and BLM burning down cities. This is the cops.
Wow. Whoa. Whoa. Oh, shit. Damn. They bust up all the windows in that joint. Was there kids in there?
There were kids in there.
Somebody just hopped out with a baby. Come on.
Watch that again. Remember when you hear about rioters, looters.
Oh shit.
The guy who has spent more time watching my streams than anybody just said it was boring. So, the grand jurors of the Breonna Taylor case gave an interview. I believe they were on CBS this morning.
iPhone 12 and iPhone 12 Pro are here.
You shut the fuck up.
This new iPhone.
Now, Breonna Taylor's mom has asked that the state appoint a new special prosecutor. The Attorney General, Daniel Cameron, was already a special prosecutor in the case.
CBS this morning, we begin this half hour with our exclusive interview with
Her mom has asked that they appoint a new special prosecutor.
Kevin Glogauer. Taylor was shot and killed in her home during a police raid back in March. One of the officers at the scene, Brett Hankinson, was fired and charged with wanton endangerment for shooting at the apartment next door. No one was
Breed Creed is fucking with you.
No officers have been charged for Taylor's death, and at least one of the officers involved has defended their actions. The jurors told us authorities never presented them with the option to consider indicting officers on more serious charges for Taylor's
Daniel
death.
Cameron has been trying to cover this up the whole time.
Disgusted and even betrayed.
They had to go through a court order in order to be able to give this interview to tell you that there is a cover-up going on.
Up front, when they gave us all of that testimony over 20-something hours, and then to say that these are the only charges that they're coming up with. It's like, what did we just sit through? And then to be told that we're not charging them with anything else, to me, it was a betrayal.
So when you all look, juror 1 and 2, and you're told that the only thing you need to consider right now is wanton endangerment, did anyone say, hey, are there any other options here? Did either of you say that?
Almost the entire room.
What was the answer that you were given?
Basically, in a nutshell, they said there were other possible charges that we considered, but nothing that we could make stick.
They never gave us the opportunity to deliberate on anything but the charges for Hinkelson. That was it. As a matter of fact, when they announced that those were the
it's clear Hankinson was their throw under the bus guy.
More charges that could have gone forward on all of those officers were at least the 3 shooters.
Why is this so extraordinary, Kevin?
Normally, the grand jurors are presented with the law and the charges so that they can listen to the facts with an open mind and apply those facts to the law.
Now remember, that is what Daniel Cameron said in the press conference. We presented the grand jury with all the facts, and this was their conclusion. That's what he has been hiding behind.
This is a roadmap.
What happened here?
What happened here was it was done in the complete reverse.
What stands out to you the most?
From a legal perspective, it looked like they weren't following the grand jurors, and they only wanted the grand jurors to follow them, which is contrary to the actual rule.
Grand juror number 1 and number 2 say what prompted them to ultimately speak.
You better watch out, Poop Boy. You'll get put in Echoplex's magazine.
Attorney General Daniel Cameron, which they insist falsely represented their position on potential indictments for the officers involved in Breonna Taylor's death.
While there are 6 possible homicide charges under Kentucky law, these charges
didn't present any of them
to the facts before us because our investigation showed, and the grand jury agreed, that Mattingly and Cosgrove were justified in the return of deadly
The grand jury agreed, this lying son of a bitch.
And that the grand jury had agreed that those didn't apply. The first time I heard the word 6 possible murder charges was in that news conference.
It wasn't presented to you in the grand jury deliberations?
No. And personally, when I do something, I take responsibility for it. We had not done that.
I really felt that. This was all Cameron. This was up to him. We didn't get a choice in that at all.
Daniel Cameron is married to Mitch McConnell's niece, by the way, and is a rising star in the Republican Party.
We didn't agree to anything. We never met Cameron.
You've never met Attorney General Cameron?
No, we never met him. He never discussed anything with us.
I think many people will be very surprised to hear that they had no contact with Attorney General Cameron whatsoever.
I agree. If you watch the press conference, it seemed clear from the wording that Mr. Cameron was implying that he played a larger role in the actual presentation.
Absolutely.
Is that normally how it works?
Well, the Attorney General in Kentucky doesn't normally present cases to the grand jury. But I think to answer your question, Gail, generally the highest person in the office would at least come introduce themselves to the grand jurors.
Do either of you think there was enough evidence to present charges of murder, attempted murder?
At least manslaughter.
Yes, I think there was. I mean, just all of the evidence there. As we were listening to it, we were sure this was leading up to something like that.
Among the evidence the grand jury heard from the night of the raid was a 911 call from Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker. He says he fired a warning shot.
Clearly showing he had no clue who was at his door.
Officers returned fire with 32 bullets.
911, Operator Harris, where's their emergency?
I don't know what's happening. Somebody kicked in the door inside my girlfriend.
The thing that stood out to me when I was talking to him, he said, Why would I call 911 if I thought it was the police?
That resonated with me because he didn't know who it was that was coming in. You know, he had no idea. You could hear the distress. Everything about what he said was believable. It made sense all the way through.
You found him credible?
Yes.
Totally believable.
Did you find the police credible?
No.
No.
There are too many inconsistencies in their story. Now I understand that, you know, in a situation like that, you may not remember.
And the cops said the cops said they had like 10, 15 rounds shot at them. They even claimed that somebody had a rifle, an AR-15. One shot was fired because the door flew off the fucking hinges. Now, in this case, the city of Louisville paid out $30 million, I believe it was. I want to know when taxpayers are going to finally say enough is enough, not just over the loss of life by these crooked-ass cops, but the amount of money municipalities have to pay out for crooked cops. Over $2 billion. And this is just from it was just from the 5 largest. I don't have. I was reading the article earlier. I'm on a guest right now. I can't see the rest of it, but I believe it was 5. The 5 largest police departments, or maybe it's the 25 largest. Over $2 billion. And that wasn't even all the police departments. We have thousands. It is amazing to me. Hell, if the loss of life doesn't bother you, at least you fiscally responsible conservatives can get on board with this. It's costing you a shit ton of money to have crooked cops. Thin blue line, my ass. He exercised the fuck out of the Second Amendment. And when he, go back and listen to him describe it, they didn't just kick in the door. He said it flies off of the frame. Alright, so this is a follow-up to a story we did a few weeks ago. I played the interview of the woman on the airplane that got pissed on by a pastor. And I was highly upset that I did not know the pastor's name. Today, finally, he was charged, first of all. I don't know why the hell it's taken this long. But since he's been charged, we finally found out his name, Pastor Daniel Chalmers. If you'll remember back when we played the video originally, he claimed that he was on Ambien. Now we have more information. And it appears that the police said that he absolutely reeked of alcohol. Chalmers smelled of alcohol after being detained on the flight. The victim says she woke up feeling something warm on her body. When she looked to her right, she observed Mr. Chalmers standing next to her, shaking his exposed penis. Chalmers responded that whatever she is accusing me of, I didn't do it. Because this is a good Christian man here that wouldn't dare bear false witness. Was drunk off his ass on an airplane. I'm a pastor. That is out of my character, and I didn't do it. No, motherfucker. I hear somebody is a pastor, and I automatically assume they got some fucking skeletons in their closet. But you guys know exactly what I did when I found out his name, right? All of you are aware of what's getting ready to happen. We're getting ready to watch him do some preaching. Come on, PP Pants. Tell us what's going on.
One more. I'm hearing something with you can't sleep at night, sleep apnea. Shikirarama. Sleep, yeah?
Oh my god, this guy's a fucking like faith healer or some shit. It's even worse than I even imagined. My internet's good. I don't know what's stalling on us, guys.
Oh. Tell me when things start getting heat, something's happening in the room, like tingles.
Things start getting heat, tingles, like you pissing on somebody?
But I know someone is.
So he speaks in tongues and everything.
Definitely know the angelics here, guys. Jesus is like in here.
I'm just now watching this. I just picked a random time in the video, guys. He's worse than I could have possibly imagined.
One more. I'm hearing something with you can't sleep at night, sleep apnea. Shikirarama. Sleep, yeah? Two. Yeah. Okay. Riley, could you lay hands and
laying hands?
Got healed. Let's lay hands on these guys. Extend their hands.
Speaking in tongues. Oh my God.
Father, I just thank you, God, that you're going to give them the deep sleep tonight. That from here on out, everything changes, God. Because you called it out.
Dude, from here on out, everything changes in your life. That's for sure.
Thank you for that, God. And I thank you for the dreams and encounters that these men will have tonight. In Jesus' name.
Because if I have anything to do about it, you will not live this one down. How much do I have to put in the offering plate to get a golden shower? I might be into that kind of thing.
Riley, could you lay hands and whoever feels like they got healed, let's lay hands on these guys. Extend their hands.
All right, one more and then I've got to get out of here. Get ready to go over to Echoplex Media for the Intellectual Dollar Tree.
If you work in a team, you've got...
So I'm not a sports fan, but I'm told that there was some game on last night and it was kind of significant. I don't know anything about it. So let's find out what happened.
Tonight, as we showed you earlier, Justin Turner, we announced when the show began, Justin Turner was pulled from this game just before 10 o'clock, 9:49 local time in Arlington. We were told after the game he tested positive for COVID. So this is Turner obviously informed. Okay, he goes back, he finds out. Well, at some point afterwards, he was back out on the field with a mask on, took a picture with the team. You heard me ask Dave Roberts.
Hugging his teammates, making sure they've all got the COVID.
Players wouldn't know much, right? They're in the heart of the game. And then Turner tweeted this. Thanks to everyone for reaching out. I feel great. No symptoms at all. Just experience every emotion you could possibly imagine. Can't believe I couldn't be out there to celebrate with my guys. So proud of this team and unbelievably happy for the city of LA. Now, he tweeted this out before he went back out on the field, so maybe there's some more additional news there, and that's why we bring in our Ken Rosenthal.
Why he went on the field when he is positive, that is an excellent question. And
because he's a dumb fuck.
Understanding from various people is that he was told not to go on the field or asked not to go on the field. He insisted upon it. The Dodgers insisted upon it, and that is why he was out there. And at
the Dodgers insisted upon it.
He was mostly masked, but there was a point in the picture when he did take it off.
Well, I think that answers all the questions because everyone watching at home is feeling the same thing. And look, you get the human emotion part of it, right?
Now, the NFL is handing out fines for teams that violate COVID protocols.
To Turner, who's one of the greatest guys in this game.
Yeah.
But Ken, I mean, the facts are what you're reporting, that it is not a false positive. He had 2 positive tests. I mean, obviously, Major League Baseball is going to have some explaining to do in the coming days, I would think, right?
I would assume they're going to take action against him and the team.
I imagine that there are going to be a lot of questions asked. One is, would they have played tomorrow? The Rays had won this game. During the regular season, when a positive test occurred, they would basically not play the next day, right? That's what would happen. And they would have had to go through all the testing and contact tracing and all the things that they were doing during the regular season, this was in the middle of the World Series.
Well, I'm assuming his wife has it.
That's one question, obviously. Another question, and that's a hypothetical we'll never get the
That
answer.
mask isn't going to help you, babe.
Is why the scene that took place tonight was allowed to take place in MLB.
Now, the report from the New York Post says that he defied MLB security that was trying to take him off the field. So the MLB and the Players Association have agreed upon guidelines, so I would assume their fine's coming down. But as I said, I don't watch fucking sports. There was no addenda for except if you win a title. So yeah, the chain of events, sources say, was that the MLB was notified in the second inning of Tuesday's Game 6 that Turner's test result from a sample taken Monday had come back inconclusive. MLB demanded the game be halted at that point. MLB could have demanded the game be halted at that point. But the league had received plenty of inconclusives during testing that proved to be negative because of, among other things, contamination. They also had an 8+ week run of no positives, and the Dodgers had been in a bubble. Plus, the league knew what most around the sport did, that the Dodgers were roundly recognized as one of the teams that had taken virus protocols most seriously. And that Turner was one of the leaders demanding adherence. What? So MLB told the lab to expedite the sample that Turner had given before Tuesday's game. 2/3 of the way through what would prove to be the final game, MLB officials received the message that had made them dread opening the emails even through all the successful days. Word was sent to the Dodgers that Turner needed to be pulled from the game. But I mean, at this point, shouldn't all his teammates have to quarantine? Shouldn't the other team have to quarantine? The MLB could have stopped the game, but they decided putting Turner in isolation at that point was the best option. It seems reckless on the MLB's part, but then we're talking millions, billions of dollars are on the line. I can't believe this. And this is the reason why we're spiking so hard right now, and we're going to have an insane few months. I said back in the spring, everybody knows 5 people that are getting ready to die. I stand by that statement. But you got Trump out here spreading it at rallies. You got motherfucking Major League jackasses hugging everybody on the field. It's no wonder the numbers are what they are. And I can't go to concerts because of you stupid fuckers. Alright. Less than an hour, I will be over at Echoplex Media for the Intellectual Dollar Tree with producer Dave. Join us then. Go ahead, light one up, tip one back. It's alright to have a little fun before you hit the sack. I'm Justin Freakin. We'll see you tomorrow night on the Troll Patrol. Live.